My name is Tom Olson, and I have this vision to flip the entire city of Gary, Indiana. But I really want to change the culture and change Gary, Indiana into a place that you'd be proud to live, you'd flock to live here, you'd put a business here, and you'd grow your family. In order to make this dream a reality, I've realized I gotta find a lot of other people like me that want to be community go-givers. Gary at one point in time was a thriving city. It had steel mills all around the lakefront. In fact, Gary was actually built for people that worked at the steel mills. It was even built by the steel mills. Many of the houses were paid for by the steel mills. So Gary's had some amazing times in its history, but unfortunately in the 80s and 90s, the tax burden on the steel mills and some of the high-paying jobs made it too much for business to stay in the area. So that's where you come in. So when Gary lost all these jobs, there was a little bit of despair, a little bit of hope that was lost in this city. A lack of investment in communities like Gary, Indiana is one of the biggest reasons why communities go south. They have more crime because they have less hope. You gotta give the people of a city hope. In the 2000s, Gary got hit unnaturally 2 times in the same decade with their housing. First of all, in 2003, Indiana decided as a state they were going to reassess everything in their entire state. So all the houses in the entire state got reassessed. This took about 2 years worth of time, and by the time that they were all done, they decided to retroactive all the tax bills back 2 years. So in 2003, all these landowners and all these homeowners were getting bills for 2 years worth of taxes. On top of that, the mortgage companies didn't understand what was going on with these tax bills. So they were getting tax bills that were for 2 years and they were thinking they were for only 6 months. When this happens, all-out panic happens in the investment community. So 2003 was a major blow to the city well before we had any kind of economic downturn. And then what happens? 2008 happens, and everybody knows that the entire country had issues in 2008. So having those 2 major economic downturns in that one period of 10 years, that one decade, made a huge impact on Gary that we still today haven't recovered from. So this is Lew Wallace High School, or what used to be Lew Wallace High School. One of the issues that's happened in Gary, Indiana over the last 2 decades is all the school system has kind of crumbled. 2 or 3 decades ago, we found out that there was hundreds of thousands of dollars missing from the schools. So the schools have been taken over by the state, and they've been fighting back and forth, and I think they're really trying to get the school system back up and going, and I think the mayor has done a decent job of that. But it still leaves 3 or 4 really large schools in the city desolate, vacant, as you can see, and it's an issue that we need to address today. In addition to that, in 2006, I had some economic problems in my own life. At the same time, I decided to move my family from Crown Point, Indiana, which is what most people would consider an A+ neighborhood, to Gary, Indiana, 2 blocks from where we stand right now. And at this very school, and on this very track, is kind of where I came up with, or I shouldn't say I came up with, but I was told, or I had this vision to flip the city of Gary, Indiana. So this is the track right here. So if you look at this track, this is Lew Wallace's track. If you know me, you know I like to walk. I even get made fun of a lot of times from my employees that, you know, where's Tom, they say. And normally like, well, if he's not in his office, he's probably outside taking a walk. And they know I like to talk on the phone. They know I like to just walk and think. And this is a place where I would come almost every single morning when I lived 2 blocks away from here. And I would just walk around the track, or I'd run, or I'd get some exercise. But I'd take some time to think, to be alone, and to kind of collect my thoughts. So one day it just hit me. These people need hope. These people need somebody that's going to lead the charge and say, let's make Gary great again. Let's make this into a city where people move to instead of move away from. Let's make Gary into a place where business wants to thrive, where business runs to, where people beg to put their business in Gary, Indiana. That's what I want for Gary, Indiana. And while I was at this track, And while I was thinking about the people that I kept seeing, there was one day where I saw a person sitting right here, sitting right there in the very first row, and they had completely lost hope. And I could see it in their eyes, and it hit me. And at the time, I just said to myself, God, please bring somebody, have somebody come and help these people. And he said, you know what? That person is you. That, I'm ashamed to say, was in 2008. So between 2008 and 2012, I lived with this burden. I lived with this thought in my head that I knew I was supposed to help the people of Gary, Indiana. And I'm ashamed here to say that I didn't say anything. I knew it was, I started thinking about it, started pondering on it, but I didn't really make anything happen. And I was at a mastermind one time, which is one of the reasons why I'm so big about masterminds. I was at a mastermind and they said, you know what, if you ever think that you're supposed to do something in this world and you don't ever tell anybody about it, you're never gonna make it happen. And from that day forward, I've been telling people since 2012, hey, one of my big dreams is to flip the city of Gary, Indiana. I want to make Gary great again. All right, so what are we doing now? I feel like my job here isn't to necessarily flip every house. My job isn't to get out there and swing the hammer, isn't to buy up the whole city of Gary, Indiana, or bring hedge funds in to buy up every house and to buy up every community and to buy up the schools. That's not, I can't do that. I can't do that all. But what I feel God has placed me on this earth to do is to raise awareness for the city of Gary, to create a movement called the Community Go-Giver Movement that I believe will help people here in Gary, Indiana, just as much as I think it can help people across the entire United States and across the entire world. Today, we go up and down the streets and you can even see almost every single street will have some kind of dumpster where somebody's doing work on it. It's really exciting. So we always try to do some decent finishes in the bathrooms with the nice tile tub surrounds. And we love to put quartz or granite countertops in all of our kitchens. We believe these higher level finishes produce higher level people. And I know that sounds funny, but I actually think if you come into a house and it has granite countertops and it has, nicer finishes, that you're gonna be more proud of your house and you're gonna take care of your house better. We believe a higher level house produces a higher level person, produces a higher level community. I believe part of what's gonna make Gary great again is to raise up a bunch of community go-givers. Now, what is a community go-giver, you might say? A community go-giver is somebody who doesn't ask what the community can do for me. It's somebody who asks, what can I do for the community? So I want to encourage you to become a community go-giver. If it's not here in Gary, Indiana, help your own community. So help us revitalize the city of Gary, Indiana. Together, we can make Gary great again.